Hey there, Angular folks, it's Brian. After many years of building with Angular, I'm here to help you level up your skills and build better apps. Angular just released a brand new animation API that's lighter, can leverage hardware acceleration, and just flat out simpler than the old system. Today, we're updating my previous enter and leave animations tutorial to use this cutting-edge approach. Fair warning, this is bleeding edge stuff, only available in Angular 20.2 next, so you'll be ahead of the curve when you implement this. Okay, let's dive in. This is the same sliding menu demo from my previous tutorial, and right now it's working perfectly with traditional Angular animations. The menu slides in from the right when we click the hamburger icon and slides back out when we click outside to close it. This is all working great, so let's pop open the hood to see how we're making it happen. Let's open the root component. Here's where all the magic is happening. Here we have an if condition that controls whether to show the menu or not. This means the component is being completely added and removed from the DOM, not just hidden and shown. Now, see this open-close animation trigger attached to our menu component? This is what's handling our enter and leave animations using Angular's traditional animation framework. We can see this animation here in the component animations array. We've got an enter transition that runs when the item is added to the DOM and a leave transition that runs when it's removed. And we're using some variables to make the states easier to maintain. When it's hidden, it's translated out of the viewport, and we transition this translate value when opening and closing. Pretty straightforward, right? But here's why we're about to completely change this approach. The Angular team no longer recommends using the animations module for most use cases, and there are several compelling reasons. First, the animations package adds about 60 kilobytes to your bundle size. That might not sound like much, but in today's performance-focused world, every kilobyte counts, especially for mobile users. Second, these animations run without hardware acceleration. What does that mean for you? It means your animations run on the CPU instead of the GPU, making them less smooth, especially on older or mobile devices. Third, and this is a big one, the Angular Animations API is Angular specific. The skills you learn here don't easily transfer to other frameworks or vanilla JavaScript projects. So the Angular team is now recommending that we handle as much as possible through CSS, which is faster, more widely supported, and gives us that buttery smooth GPU acceleration out of the box. But here's the challenge. Some things are still difficult with CSS alone, especially when items leave the DOM. We now have starting style for when items are added, but there's nothing for when they're removed from the DOM. So the Angular team has begun working on a new animations API to bridge this gap, and that's what we're exploring today. Here's how the new API works. Instead of animation triggers and transition arrays, we get some simple new features. First, I'm going to remove the old animation trigger from our component. Now, with the new API, we'll add animate.enter and pass it a CSS class to apply when the item enters the DOM. In this case, we'll use slide-in. The beauty of this approach is that we now get to define our animations using regular CSS. Let's switch to the CSS for this component. Now let's create the slide-in keyframe animation. We'll start translated out of the view and end in the default position. Now we can use our slide-in class to trigger this animation. And that's it. Now it's pure CSS. Now we need to handle the leave animation. Let's go back to our main.ts file and add it to our component. And this time we'll use a class of slideOut. Okay, now let's switch over and add the styles. This slideOut animation will be the inverse of the slide-in animation. Then we need to use the slideOut class to add the animation. So it starts from the normal position and slides out to 120% off screen. Perfect. We've just recreated the exact same animation behavior, but with modern CSS. Now we can do some cleanup since we're no longer using the old animation system. First, I'll remove the entire animations array since we don't need it anymore. Next, I can remove all these animation imports and constants. And finally, we can remove provide animations async from our Bootstrap providers and its import, since we're not using the Angular animations module anymore. Look how much cleaner our code is now. We went from a somewhat complex animation configuration to some standard CSS. Let's save everything and test it out. Let's try opening the menu. Perfect. The slide-in animation works beautifully. But now let's try closing it. It opens perfectly, but when it closes, the animation doesn't work properly. The menu just disappears instead of sliding out. Now, it took me a while to figure out what was happening here because, in theory, this should work perfectly. But I think this might actually be a bug in the current implementation. What I determined is that the component styles are being removed as soon as the signal changes to false. The new animation API keeps the DOM element around during the animation, which is exactly what we want. But without the component styles, the element isn't rendered properly. So hopefully this will be fixed in a future Angular release. But in the meantime, I found a clever workaround. The solution I discovered is to move the conditional logic into the page menu component itself, so the component and its styles stay in the DOM. Let me show you how I did this. Let's open the page menu component template. We need to add a conditional wrapper inside this component that we can apply our animate directives to. First, we need a signal to control the open state. Let's switch to the component TypeScript file. Here, I'll add a menu open signal and initialize it to false. Now, let's go back to the template and wire up this new signal. I'll wrap everything in an if block using the new signal. Inside this condition, I'll add a div that wraps all the content too. Now I'll add the animation directives to this div. Next, I need to update the button click event. Instead of emitting the close event, I'll directly set the signal to false. And I'll do the same for the click event on the list. Now we need to move our animation styles and update the component. Let's copy the styles from the root component so that you don't have to watch me write them again. I'll paste these at the top of the style sheet. Now I need to update the component styles. Currently, all the positioning and styling is applied to host, but now I need to apply it to the div inside instead. Now I need to remove the animations in the root component. Now, looking at how this menu currently toggles, it opens when an event fires from the page content component and closes with an output from the menu component. The state used to be managed here, but now we've moved it into the menu component. So now we need to add a mechanism to open the menu externally. So let's switch back to the menu component. Here I'm going to add a public open method that other components can call to open this menu. All it needs to do is set the signal to true. Also, we can remove the output since we don't need it anymore. Okay, now let's switch back to the root component. Here, we need to add a reference variable to the component. And we can remove the output event. Now we can update the menu click event to call the open method on the menu component using the reference variable. Okay, let's save and try it out. Oops, I forgot to remove the old condition around this component. Okay there, now let's try again. Let's try opening the menu. Perfect. And now let's close it. Excellent. The slide out animation works perfectly now. And the best part is that this is now using the new Animations API with CSS animations, which allows us to leverage hardware acceleration, which should lead to better performance. And there we have it. We've successfully migrated to Angular's new Animation API. We replaced complex animation triggers with simple directives, moved to hardware-accelerated CSS animations, and reduced our bundle size. Just a reminder though, this is brand new and may change. If you found this helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more Angular tips and tricks. Until next time, thanks for watching.